Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC 255 Figueiredo versus Perez. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card and our first fight on the prelim. So in our first fight, we have about in the welterweight division, Cosce versus Sasha Palatnikov. So look at this fight right here. This is going to be straight up forward with this one. Sasha Palatnikov is still very fresh into his career. I think he's only like 3 years into his career. Not the worst skill set, pretty solid fighter. But I don't think he's ready for this level of competition. Definitely not ready for Cosce. I see holes in his striking, but most importantly, I see holes in his grappling. I see he hasn't fought the best competition, pretty low tier competition. I see him taken down, see him mounted, see him taken down with ease. He's gotten takedowns of his own, but the fact that he's getting taken down the way he's getting taken down and getting controlled the way he's getting controlled in these fights, and also openings on striking, it just doesn't bode well for Palatnikov. Cosce has power, he's the more technical striker, and definitely the much, much better grappler. His wrestling, he could probably take Palatnikov down at will, without much issue. On the ground, he could dominate him, transition, mount, pound him out, tap him out, pretty much do whatever he wants with him in the grappling. So, there's really a lot of clear paths to victory for Cosce in this one. So what I really see happening is Cosce is imposing his will on the feet, cracking Palatnikov, dropping him, or rocking him, then level changing, scooping him up, slamming him down, and just pounding him out until he turns around and gives up his back, and then he taps him out in that first round. So in this fight, I have Cosce via first round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Daukaus versus Dustin Stoltzfus. So look at one right here. Daukaus is riding a lot of steam because of his brother, because of his fight with, because of his older brother with Chris Daukaus at heavyweight, also because of his debut against Brendan Allen. Though it was a loss, people see Brendan Allen as such a top prospect and top contender, or more of a prospect. He's not a contender, or I don't know. You could say you're in the UFC, you're basically a contender if you're still whatever case. But they see so much potential in Brendan Allen. The fact that Daukaus was able to, hold his own with Brendan Allen, make it have a tough fight. They're giving a lot of him, a lot of props for that. Now again, coming with Dustin Stoltzfus, they both have one loss. They both are solid grapplers. Stoltzfus just seems to be the more powerful fighter, the more powerful wrestler, and the heavier-handed fighter, and the better striker between the two. Daukaus probably has the better grappler between the two. But really, a lot of what Daukaus is riding steam off or getting this favoritism off is because of because of his brother's work and because of a loss. So all things that really don't factor to mean much of anything. It'd be impressive and whatnot. It could say something for a high level competitor. Definitely Brendan Allen, probably the best competition out of these guys that fought. But a loss is a loss at the end of the day. Now looking at this one, Dustin Stoltzfus versus Daukaus. Daukaus will have the height and reach, but he always has the height and reach in pretty much all of his fights. It hasn't really helped him too much outside of maybe one fight. And he doesn't know how to use it. He's one of those guys that's tall and don't know how to use his reach. Still hittable. Still a lot of people get to that soft chin of his. I seen him get dropped and almost finished by a guy who was minus 500. So I don't know. Not the most impressed about Daukaus striking. Grappling-wise, I'm impressed. But now going against Dustin Stoltzfus. It's not a Dustin Stoltzfus. It's this guy that's just a striker and that doesn't have any grappling. So you're going against a guy that has some high-level grappling as well. I'll say Daukaus is the better grappler, but I think Stoltzfus' wrestling and his strength, and also his own grappling, can neutralize Daukaus' grappling. I don't think he'll be scared to grapple with Daukaus. On the feet, his power will be something else. I don't think Daukaus will be able to deal with that strength and power. As Daukaus is one of those guys that's not the most physically strong fighters, but he's technical and good at grappling. So I think that strength and also the grappling, Stoltzfus will be able to neutralize Daukaus' grappling, be able to manhandle him and control him around the ring, be the big brother in this one, crack him with big shots. I don't think, I think Daukaus is kind of a frail fighter, so I think as the fight starts to go on, he's going to start to get cracked, get dropped in these exchanges. I think eventually he has enough and gets put away in that second round once Stoltzfus finds that punch on his chin, that clean punch on his chin after landing some damage early on in the first round and early on in the portion of that second round. I think he found that shot in in that mid to late portion of the second round, drops him and finishes him off in that second round. So in this fight, I have Dustin Stoltzfus via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the welterweight division, Jouban versus Jared Gooden. So Jared Gooden's been brought in here. He's a pretty decent prospect, but really looking at his skill set, I think they dawned him a little bit too high end. Maybe, well, I don't know. It's not like the UFC all the time necessarily don't try to, build fighters up. Sometimes they definitely be trying to build fighters up, but I don't think this is the case where they're trying to build Jared Gooden up because they're kind of throwing him into the deep end in a way. Jouban is not like the best guy in the division by far, or anyone even to any illusion or delusion that Alan Jouban is one of the best welterweights in the world. He is one of the better welterweights in the world, but he's definitely not cream of the crop in the welterweight division. And he knows that. Everyone knows that. So, but Jouban is still one of those fighters that you got to respect, and he can give anyone in the division, top to bottom, a tough competition. Solid striking, solid wrestling, solid defense, solid jiu-jitsu, just solid and rounded out in every area. So no matter who you are, he's going to give you some work because he's good in every area. He's solid and he's sound in every area. Not going against Jared Gooden. Jared Gooden has a good frame. I think if he builds off that frame, he can have a good career in the UFC. But really looking at it right now, he's kind of slow and lethargic with his striking, inconsistent power, grappling. He does some grappling competitions. Grappling not really the best either, or as far as at least implementing that grappling. So, like I said, slow and lethargic. So slow and lethargic. No matter how good of a grappler you are, you slow and lethargic with your takedowns. Jouban just going to be able to stuff those takedowns. Like I said, Jouban is a well-rounded fighter. So he'll be able to shut those takedowns of Gooden. Then on feet, Jouban just much more crisp, much more diverse, and a much higher level striker. So I just think he can easily shut down Gooden's takedown. Maybe even take down Gooden if he wants to. Then on feet, just beat him to the punch and just outstrike him, be more technical, be more fluid, be faster, be sharper. Use that fight IQ. Use that ring generalship. And just, like I said, pick apart Gooden through 3 rounds. I don't think he stops him, but I do think he puts on a veteran performance and just shows him the levels to this game. So in this fight, I have Alan Jouban via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, Nicholas Dalby versus Daniel Rodriguez. So look at this one right here. Both guys coming off fights where they were severely damaged, dropped. I think Rodriguez got dropped like twice in that fight. Or definitely took a lot of big shots from Dwight Grant. Dalby, I think, was dropped once by Jesse Ronson, then got his back taken and submitted. So both guys are coming off fights where they got dropped, but Rodriguez was able to come back and get a victory. Dalby was on the end of a submission. So I think that's going to play a factor, this fact that both coming off damage. And also the fact that Dalby lost, I think, was our fight more recent. I think Rodriguez fight was like 2-3 months ago, I believe. I'm not even going to fact check that, but Dalby fight was like barely 2 months, if even a month ago. So he's wearing that damage more and also coming off a loss. And then when you try to come off a loss that quick against a high level competitor like this, I know some people will say, "Oh, I always want to fight the best," but sometimes when you lose, you got to take a step back, build yourself back up. But sometimes it works for people, sometimes it don't. But whatever Dalby is doing, I just don't think it's the right decision. Then going against a guy who is even harder, who's even more credible right now in the division with his boxing and also his jiu-jitsu that Rodriguez presents. I think, in my opinion, I think their jiu-jitsu is kind of close enough. But I think Rodriguez will be able to implement it better if they fought. Because based off his size and based off the fact that his other skill set, like with his boxing, he'll have Dalby diving or looking for some like takedown, other ways to shift the fight up. By the way, both solid grapplers, but also mainly the size and power in boxing of Daniel Rodriguez versus Dalby. I think Dalby is the more versatile fighter. Like, he mixes up his takedowns better, slips in his kicks better, and blends his arts all together better. And he's also one of those fighters that, like I said, one of the more underrated fighters in the league and in the sport, but in MMA. But like I said, I think his chin's still gonna be somewhat fragile in this one, or at least vulnerable in this one, the better word to say it. There with the pressure and boxing of Rodriguez, been in touch with the jab, come around with the hook, come around with the overhands and stuff. I don't think he'll be taking much of that power. I think he's going to look good early on, but once Rodriguez starts to crack him and cut the cage off on him and wear him off and rip him to the body and maybe slip some leg kicks of his own in there, I think Dalby's going to be more hittable, be more stationary. Then when he starts to get more stationary, Daniel Rodriguez start to unload on him and start to land better, cleaner shots, start to sit down on his punches more. Like I said, Dalby's chin is vulnerable at the moment. I perceive it will be vulnerable at the moment. And when Rodriguez cracks him, then he'll start to like sit down on those punches and crack him. I think he puts him away, and I think it happens early on in the 3rd round. So in this fight, I have Daniel Rodriguez via 3rd round TKO. Now to our next fight we have in the women's flyweight division, Antonina Shevchenko versus Ariane Lipski. So you got a fight right here where Lipski is the better grappler. And we've seen in Shevchenko's 2 losses to Matafari and Chukagian that you take her down, you can pretty much dominate her. And that looks like, I think Lipski has the skills to dominate her in the ground, but takedown-wise, her takedown, I think she only has 1 takedown in the UFC. And she's been taken down like 7 or 8 times in the UFC, something like that. At least way more times she's been taken down than she's taken down opponents. Only one singular takedown in the UFC, and I think she did nothing with it. Other times maybe opponents took her down, then she did something with it. But other than that, and also she was barely struggling to be in the UFC. Then she got 2 wins because they, gave her a low tier competition. But all that being said, I'm focusing more on the fact that Lipski hasn't had the most successful takedowns. I know Shevchenko, after those 2 losses, is working on her takedown defense. She's training with her sister, so her takedown defense is going to be better. Her grappling defense is going to be better. But more often than not, Lipski, like I said, Lipski hasn't got many takedowns, hasn't shot for many takedowns. So I see this fight, it's more so been a striking matchup. And I think on feet, Shevchenko's the more higher, decorated striker, the higher caliber striker, the higher value striker. And neither of these women are knockout artists. So I see Shevchenko controlling that range, dictating the pace, and out volume striking Lipski, and it's been that more technical striker and beating Lipski in a striking matchup. So in this fight, I have Antonina Shevchenko via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the middleweight division, Joaquin Buckley versus Jordan Wright. So this fight is very interesting in a way because Joaquin Buckley is riding a whole lot of steam for his knockout over Impa Kasanganay. So he's riding a lot of steam for that win. A fight where he was the underdog, and pretty much a big underdog in that fight. And he came out with a big highlight reel knockout over Impa Kasanganay, and now changed his trajectory. He came to UFC and got knocked by Kevin Holland, was a big underdog, then a big highlight reel jumping spinning back kick off a court kick, knocking Impa Kasanganay, a guy who had a lot of hype around him or a lot of potential around him. And now he kind of stole his steam and even tripled it because of that highlight reel. So now the mainstream is on him and whatnot. But really the fight didn't show too much. He was winning the fight even before that spinning back because his power was the difference in that one against Impa Kasanganay. His power and explosiveness was able to cover that range and tag Impa Kasanganay. Had him buzzed and tagged up a couple times. Even that short fight. But still hasn't really shown much his well-roundedness. I looked on IG, he's been showing doing set up his shots, his takedowns, and on his IG. So it's he's showing that he's gonna be more well-rounded, or he's showing his other skills. And he's always been a more well-rounded fighter. I'm not a more well-rounded fighter, but he always been more than just a striker. I think matter of fact, even been he was a wrestler first and a grappler first, and then a striker when he came to MMA. So that skill set's still there, and I think he might look to utilize against Jordan Wright. But now looking at Jordan Wright, he came in. I think Anthony Hernandez got knocked out on the Contender Series. That fight was overturned for whatever reason. Then he had another Contender Series fight, and he won that fight. And he came in and beat a journeyman, bloated guy that used to be at heavyweight. Well, first was a welterweight, I believe, or middleweight. Probably a middleweight. And then was a bloated heavyweight for a long time. Then a bloated light heavyweight. I don't know, maybe it was still a bloated. Well, by the way, the guy he beat in the last fight, I'm trying to say, is not the best fighter. So when we look at both these guys, you can't really be sold on them. That's where I'm really trying to go with it. You can't be sold on either guy just yet. Matter of fact, I might be sold on Joaquin Buckley more than Jordan Wright. I definitely am sold more on Joaquin Buckley than Jordan Wright at the moment because at least Impa Kasanganay was more of a credible fighter, whereas the guy that Jordan Wright beat wasn't the most credible fighter. And now the guy with 0-2 or 0-3 in the UFC that he just fought and beat. So even though it might look impressive, all those controlling the range and spinning the heel, kicking that guy in the top of the head and just picking him apart, still did not the best. And even at times, he did get caught up in that cage. He hasn't addressed that issue with being a cutoff striker. You get all these fancy kicks and whatnot. But when somebody covers that range, what do you do? I think I think one time they were in the clinch. It's still, even though the guy was not the best fighter, was still able to close that range on him and get up into a clinch. So say a guy as explosive as Buckley gets in on you like this, it is in that close range, and he's able to land power. You might get knocked out again, like you got knocked out by Anthony Hernandez. And I'm seeing that kind of happen. He still has to address, really controlling that range and not allowing guys to pressure him and get into that boxing range. And what could he do in that boxing range? So he looked kind of sloppy in that boxing range. At kicker range, he looks phenomenal, but in that boxing range, he's still kind of mediocre. Now Buckley could get into that range. That could be another issue. If Buckley chews up his legs and get on the inside, that could be an issue. So this is really looking like discount version of Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, except it'll probably be an even better version of that fight. Probably. But what I'm understanding is that, like I said, Jordan Wright hasn't addressed that issue for me. And even in his last fight, the guy was still able to get in that close range. So I don't see Buckley having too much issues getting that range. But how explosive he is, how athletic he is, how much he's a better striker, a better fighter. Like I said, especially that explosiveness and that power and the striking technique to be able to, footwork to be able to get it inside. Maybe especially with his wrestling, be able to close that distance, to get takedowns, wear out Jordan Wright, slow him down. And I think that's what all means game plan. His explosiveness, his experience, his skills, his striking, in his wrestling, mixing the takedowns, weather out Wright, tire those legs out, even probably throw some leg kicks to wear those legs out. Second round, have a Jordan Wright that's not able to move and is right in front of you. And then just touch his soft Beverly Hills chin and knock him out in that second round. Get in that close range, smother the range, crack him, beat him up on the inside, and knock him out on the inside. So in this fight, I got Joaquin Buckley via second round TKO. Now to our prelim headliner, we have in the flyweight division, Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. So we got the battle of the Brandons from Mexico, one Brandon's from Mexico, but both Brandons are Mexican. But yeah, Moreno versus Royval. So this one's very interesting right here. They both kind of have really similar enthusiasm or similar mindsets for fighting. Like they just go out there and go all for it. And they love it, and they're not afraid to take risks. Moreno's more of the top grappler. Royval can be a top grappler, but mostly when I see Royval, he's a bottom grappler. Like to throw his legs and try to catch these submissions on you and work off the bottom or work off his back. And he's content with, when somebody take him down to work off his back. And that at times has paid off bad. Ended up bad for him. But recently he's been making it work for him, especially in the UFC. He also been working on his switches and his reversals off his submissions. And yeah, so he's 2-0 in the UFC. He's free on his feet and catching people. Like he was able to rock Kai France like twice, like 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4 times in that last fight. He's just been wild and been creative. Not necessarily technical, but just letting it flow, using his height, using his reach, using his long, awkward body to slip those knees up, spin his back fist, and all this other crazy stuff. But in Brandon Moreno on the other side, he'll let those hands fly. His striking might look ugly at times, but they'll be effective with it. Then a high cardio with mixing takedowns, not afraid to, be in somebody's guard and work. I think that's what's going to come down to. Brandon Moreno being aggressive, pressing the pace. Also, like Royval's going to be a side and scrap. But I think it'll come down to the fact, like I said, Royval is kind of content to just sit on his back and sometimes try to work for submissions and look for submissions. And Moreno is going to put him there. He's going to put him on the back and like defend his submission attempts and just grind him out into the guard a lot of the fights. Royval to me, I think, going to turn into a jiu-jitsu match or like a grappling match. And Moreno's pace and top pressure and ground and pound and top control is what's going to lean it. Like I said, I see some exciting striking exchanges in this one, but more so I think what it really comes down to is the grappling exchanges. And even on the feet, like I said, Royval isn't the most technical striker either, so Brandon Moreno striking, it's not like going to make Brandon Moreno look like the striker that's not technical. Neither of these guys are the most technical strikers at all. They're both wild guys, both have big holes in their striking game. They more so just let it rip. And I think in that exchanges, Moreno can have just as much success as Royval, really. Even though Royval was able to, right Kai France and whatnot, it's still a sloppier fighter. Still defensively big holes around the side. He can get caught with hooks, and Moreno does some wild hooks. So I wouldn't be surprised if Moreno drops him. So I think it's equally the same amount of odds that each other they drop one another, because like I said, both these guys defensively and offensively have big striking holes. And I think coming down to the fact that Royval is so confident and comfortable off his back. Moreno's going to put him there. And like I said, it's not going to be a battle, but Moreno's going to secure the top position and secure the control, and that's going to edge it over the course of 3 rounds in a tight matchup. Moreno's top control and ground and pound and with control time is going to edge it for Moreno. So in this fight, I have Brandon Moreno via decision. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC 255 Figueiredo versus Perez. And as always, thanks for watching.